Hello, everyone. It's Tammy with Frou-frou Studio, and today I'm going to give you a kind of behind the scenes look of my studio, and in particular, as requested by a subscriber, how I store a lot of my items, including pre made ephemera and that kind of thing. I'm going to try my best to not jiggle you guys too badly. I apologize in advance if I kind of shake it up too much, but we'll just kind of go around the room and I will show you um, how I keep some of my stuff. As I mentioned in the video before, all of my furniture that I have in here are found objects pretty much. They were either from estate sales or uh, thrift stores, and I have kind of painted them to go together and refurbished them, for my use. So, to begin with, this is where all the magic happens. This is where I do the majority of my work and where I do my filming. And you can see I have just a kitchen table. That's all it is. It's a smaller kitchen table that I painted, and that's what I use for my regular work surface. The two little cubby units that are back here that hold my tools, I got those on Decor Steals or Decorator Steals, whatever that website is, where you can find things. They put steals up every day. These were on there, and I thought they were perfect. And that's where I keep, everything that I use pretty much on a daily basis so that I could just reach up there and grab it. And then I've got the little drawers down below that I can keep, um, like my binding stuff in and rings and, just different objects like that. And then up above it, I just have a yardstick that I have um, kind of put up there to display some of my favorite cabinet cards. So that's what that is. And you can see I've got my clamps there on the side. If we pan to the left just a little bit, I have another hanging unit, and I got this one at Hobby Lobby, and it does have the hangers on the back of it already. And that is where I keep all of my distress inks, my Tim Holtz distress inks. Sorry, I'll try to move slow. Are in these tins, and I do have them pretty much by color. When he started adding some, my colors had to overflow a little bit. And then underneath it, I have all my little, daubers on a vintage old stamp thing. Um, I'll back up just a little bit so you can see my tins. These are just vintage muffin tins, and they hold all of my little bits and pieces, the binder clips and the eyelets and um, uh, hair hairpins, bulb pins, and that kind of thing. So that's where I keep that. And then I have this storage, and this is for like charms and things like that. But there's a few buttons up there, and just little nitbits, and also anything that's overflow from my little tins are in those tins. And again, that piece is from Hobby Lobby as well. Okay, now I'm going to back up. This is my little rolling cart. Now, normally when I'm working on a project, I pull this little rolly cart over next to my chair so that I have better access. And I use the top you can see the top has a divided tray in it, and that's where I put my ephemera for the current journals that I'm working on. For example, all that is for the fall journals that I'm working on. And then it just has just miscellaneous bits and pieces in it, in case I need to grab them quickly. And on the bottom is all of my like tea-dyed papers and stuff like that, so that I can, pull those out to make my pages. Now, I'm going to move this, sorry, so that I can show you. Okay, this little unit is just a inexpensive little unit that you can get at Target or whatever. In the wood boxes that are in it, I have just collected from different places. But this is where I store all of my blank ephemera pieces. My decks of cards and my time cards, guest checks, that kind of thing. There's also a box down there that has like yarn in it, and one that has my Tim Holtz tissue paper, and there's some foam tape down there, and just anything like that. That's all in there. Okay, let me put this back. Oops. It's kind of hard to operate the camera and operate this tray. Now, if you see stains and paint and such on the carpet, which you will, my grandkids also craft in here, and I am not, I don't worry about what they do to the rug, because I'm more interested in them being creative than whether they get a little bit of paint or whatever on the rug. So you will see that, but that's a different story. Okay, panning this way. This wonderful cabinet was a gift from my husband, and it is some kind of musical repair shop cabinet for, I don't know if it was for, I'm wanting to say maybe a piano repair shop, but you can see that it is gorgeous. Eventually, the buttons that are stored in jars, and I will say that these jars are great for storage, and you can pick them up at thrift stores for almost nothing. And so whenever I see them, I get them, because I always find something that I can put in them. But eventually those buttons are going to go in these drawers, because as you can see, they're all divided, and I want my buttons to be by color. And now that I'm retired, that's probably something that I will be able to get to when I'm really, really bored. But the top ones are going to be for buttons. And then the bottom ones, they have all my washi tapes, because they don't have the little dividers. So all my washi tapes are stored in this cabinet. Okay, panning over. I have a box that has my laces and trims, at least the bigger, wider ones. I also have a drawer in the cabinet that they're sitting on for the smaller ones. Excuse me. I have my strings, and they're just in an old metal box. And then we come to another gift from my sweet husband, and it is a old elastic cabinet, and that is where I have my crinkled seam binding ribbon is all stored in there. vintage scissors because I like them. So I display those, of course. So if I back up, which I will do slowly, you can see this is just a dresser. It's just a dresser that I painted and put the little cup pulls on and the little label things. So that's all that is. Then if we keep panning, this is my vintage sewing cabinet with my sewing machine on it. I'm going to pause you for just a second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to go get a drink. I felt like I was choking. All right. Vintage sewing cabinet. Again, I got this at a garage sale. And my sewing machine. That's pretty much how it stays with the cover on it because I hate to sew. And then if you pan this way, remember I said in my last video that I started with a folding table. I still have one folding table left because I have not found a table to go in this corner. I will, but I have not found one yet. Underneath it are book pages that I have removed from books. They're my more precious, we'll say, book pages. Foreign language books, antique books, that kind of thing. The little black and white box is my scrapbook scraps. And the bottom Amazon box there, I think, is just the empty Amazon box. That was a good size, so I kept it. This area is where I keep my laminator, my airbrush, and my Big Shot. The little tool cabinet, toolmaker, or mechanics tool cabinet holds all my dies. And then you can see I've got my little Sizzix thing up there in my label maker thing, sticker maker. And then on the wall, purely decorative, are more wooden boxes and drawers. And they have all my tins, my vintage tins that I have picked up from different places. All right, now we're going to go across. This is the door. That's my really kind of clothesline. That's where I hang things to dry. And it's just a frame with some string across it and some clothespins. And when I have something that needs to dry completely, I just clip it up there until it dries. Okay. Moving to this side. This is all my packing stuff for getting things ready to ship out in the gray bookcase. And, you know, it's got my envelopes and my little plastic pouches and all that kind of stuff. The little plastic containers that are on the top, those are projects that are in progress. So each one of those on the top row are journals that I'm working on. And then you can see the ones on the bottom are not as full. Those are things that I'm collecting for future products. And then there's one that's even empty. In the other pre-made cabinet that, you know, you can get anywhere, pretty generic with the little bins in it. That is on my substrates. That's where I keep my cardboard and my packaging paper, bubble wrap, anything that's considered a substrate is in that area. And then the one on top of that, again, has packing materials on my tapes and stuff like that. This is my standing ribbon holder. I've had it for a very long time because I used to make hair bows. And so that's why it is so full of ribbon still. I have not purchased any. It's just ribbon that I've had. But it's also great to hold my big sheets of handmade paper, which is what's draped over the top. Um, these are vintage uh, art books, like how to draw, how to paint, and I just think they're really cool looking, so I hung them up on the wall. I've got two journal covers there that are hung on the wall, and there is a stationary bike in here, and yes, it does get used occasionally. Not as much as it should, but now that I'm retired, hopefully that will be more. Okay, this little table I have not painted yet, and you can see there are some empty jars there um, that I've collected, but don't have anything to put in them at this moment. But they're sitting there waiting. Oh, I'm going to go back this way. The jars are also a great place to store your pads for your little daubers. And so that's what's in those. Okay, that's my dad. Okay, hopefully we won't go through too quick here. All right, back to where we were. This little table is my grandkids' art table. That's why I'm not in any hurry to paint it, because they have painted it, not on purpose, but they have. But you can see by looking at it, there's orange paint and there's all kinds of different color of paint on it. And it's kind of sentimental, and I don't really want to paint it. So that's why it's still wood. On top of that are two drawers that I found, who knows where, probably at a thrift store somewhere. And those two drawers hold in the folders, which you can get on Amazon, which are great. They're kind of a meshy zip up folder. Those are ephemera that are sectioned by what they are. For example, patriotic, German, French, botanicals, that kind of thing. And then the other one is holding my large coffee table books that are too big to put in the bookcase, and also any of my empty book covers that the guts are gone, but I'll save the covers, for future journals. So, and then I have a chalkboard up here so that I can make myself notes. Okay, magazines, and those are just magazines that I like to read. And there's a couple of books down there on granite ware and enamel ware, which I also collect. So those are stuck in there. All right, I'm going to back up just a little bit. And this is my bookcase. This is all the books I have, folks. I don't have a ton of books because usually I know this is the space I have. And so I usually, get rid of some before I get any more. For example, the Reader's Digest books, those will all at some point be journals. So as those are used for journals, then I'll get some more. And then the rest of them are, my books that I get pages out of to use, or pictures, depending. On the top, this is my beloved German stamp set that I got when I was in Germany, and then there's just some vintage items sitting there. Those are all my vintage German stamps that I got. and my 2 little prayer books, and I've got a vintage roll of adding machine tape, which will eventually become a snippet roll, and then I've got my vintage um, paper trimmer. Okay, now this, if you remember, is where I sit. This is where I stand. All right. So this is, again, just a kitchen table, but it is countertop height. So it is a larger kitchen table. Underneath it, I have just 2 of the little cheapy storage units. And in there are all my little fussy cut pieces, labeled, um, stamps, receipts, butterflies, people, tickets, etc. And then the little black containers that you see in the bottom 2, those are old vintage CD holders, and they make great places to store things that are card-like, um, postcards, uh, decks of cards, number cards, business cards, anything that's, card based, because they're divided and you can put, each section can be something different. Again, more plastic boxes. All my those clear plastic boxes, they come in a set from Joann's. The kind of black ones that you see down on the bottom, those are just pencil boxes that I got at the Dollar Tree. Okay, then I have my notebooks here. You see me grab those during videos. That's my stamps and my little ephemera pieces and my photos and my vintage scrapbook pieces. They're all in that. And they are on top of my scrapbook paper. And that's all the scrapbook paper I have in the 12 by 12s is in that little bin. That's what I hold myself to. And then on top, we have my envelope maker. I have another smaller glass mat. I have my stamp platform, and I have my scoreboard. And then behind that, I have my glues and all my pens and inks and distress oxides. These are little blank tags and such, and they're stored in an old metal brush. And behind that are all my journals. Just kind of there, because this table is, more square, so it's really deep. And then if you pan this way, I have the Tim Holtz little spinny thing, and it has my acrylics, it has my brushes, and it has my spray oxides. And my paper trimmers are here. And then my tools are on that back of that truck. And if you'll notice, I have several trucks in my room that I use for storage. I love old toy trucks, and so I pick those up too when I can find them for a good deal. This cabinet, and my husband buys them for me as well. This one in particular is an old Army truck, and he is retired Army, so, but it holds my punches and, tools. Um, This cabinet, it's actually two stacked on top of each other, holds rubber stamps that I use frequently. The other rubber stamps are in my Tim Holtz folding up notebook, zip up notebook things. But the ones I use frequently are in the top part. And in the bottom part of this, move my little folder out of the way here, are all my oxides are stored in here by color. And I think there's 2 colors per, and I've got them labeled, like red and pink, blue and purple, yellow and orange, so forth. Whatever I'm working on goes in this little metal file bin. You can find those at the thrift store like crazy. My 3 fall journals are sitting in there, and then there's my project folder that has anything that I think I might use in those journals is in that pouch. I have one more little muffin tin. This is a child size for like a easy bake oven or whatever. And it holds my daubers for my oxide sprays that I use most frequently. And the other one is the little sanding one. And like I said, those just sit in that wooden thing just to keep me from getting on my table. And then, of course, I have my little Scentsy thing back there so that I, have a nice smell. My glass of tea. And then you can see Lou. That's Lou right there. And then that book is the vintage book that I'm going to use for December Ember. And so I've got it sitting there. And those little mushrooms are bookmarks that I made yesterday. I probably will share a tutorial on that because I think they came out really cute. Okay. I'm going to back up. And then on the top of there, I also have my little mini journals that I've made. There's also the cards for my 50 stack challenge 2 are up there. And then these little tins have little bitty tiny pieces of ephemera in those so that I can grab them pretty quickly. All right, we're backing up slowly. This side of the room is kind of dedicated to sorry guys, I don't know why my voice is so cracky. Is devoted to my pastel work. And so all of my pastel papers, my pencils, my chalk pastels, they're all stored on this side. And I kind of keep those separated out so that, it's not mixed in with everything else. And I know where everything is. One thing I didn't mention is this cabinet over here, which was also a gift from my wonderful hubby. There's my little 50 Stack Challenge 3 box, and this cabinet holds all of my pencils, whether it be pastel pencils, my colored pencils, my charcoals, all of that are in these little pull-out drawers. So, okay, on with the rest. Sorry, I know I was moving kind of fast there. Apologize. All right, I do have a TV in here. I don't do much watching. Usually it's listening. And it is just on 2 wall cabinets, vintage wall cabinets. They're probably from the 50s, maybe. Um, I don't think they're any older than that. I don't think they're any newer than that. I would say 50s, that I got at the uh, Restore for $2 a piece. I painted them. Those have all my paints in them that I do not use for journaling. Chalk paints, acrylics, paintbrushes are in there. All that, anything related to painting is in there. Um, and then I have a big, beautiful window in here, so I have lots of natural light. The two chairs are just from the big counter table, and they're just kind of sitting there. When I do the pastel art, I can pull it up, and work on a higher surface, which helps a lot for drawing. The suitcases hold my fabrics and my lacier items, appliques, doilies, any kind of things like that are in those little suitcases. And then we're over to the last cabinet. And this cabinet is a vintage cabinet from the post office. My husband is retired from the post office. I can't get far enough away for you to not be blind on that one, I don't think. And it houses my wooden rubber stamps and my envelopes, blank envelopes to make ephemera. And it also houses paper pads, like the smaller ones, like if they're 4x4, 6x6, 8x8. And it also has my holiday envelopes in there. So, for example, I think I have like 3 Christmas ones. I have a Halloween one and things like that. And so that I can pack those away when not in season. And, they're out of the way. They're in a place that I don't have to access every day. But they're also, very accessible if I need them. It also keeps all my paper bags that I use to make journals and just any kind of notebooks or things like that that I might use. Okay. So I think that's it. So we'll turn back this way and you can see that we have made a full circle of the room. There's the door. One of the challenging things when I decided to make this my studio was, if you can see, it is a bonus room that is over the garage. And so I have very little wall space that is actually full-size wall space. You see how the walls slant? And so everything that I had to pick up for furniture-wise to go in the space pretty much had to be things that weren't very tall. Because, for example, if you look at this wall, it's mostly window, and so I had that much space on both sides to put something that could be tall. And the same with, sorry, I'm trying to go slow. The same with this side, I have a door there. And so I had very little space that was full size height to be able to put cabinets. So that's why most of the things that are in here are dresser-like or table-like, is because I had to be able to accommodate the sloped walls. Overall, though, I love my space. It's huge. I'm very lucky in that. Uh, this home has a double bonus room. There's one on the other end of the house, and my hubby has claimed it for his office. And I have this side, and so, if we get mad at each other, we can just go to opposite sides of the house and be in our own little happy places. I'm joking, of course, but so I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope that gives you a little inspiration for how to store some stuff. And keep your mind open when you go to craft stores or an estate sale or whatever. Kind of think outside the box, and um, paint goes a long way to make things look like they belong together, even when they may not necessarily. So, until next time, everybody have a good evening. Bye.